Hi, welcome to this video on breathwork, in particular the role of the ribcage in our breathing process. So that is the front of the ribcage, right round to the sides and all the way through to the back of the ribcage as well. Now, I'm not going to break down here all of the intricate details of the ribcage and the breathing process exactly. I want to get into the practical process so that you have something to take away with you, and it may be something that I video afterwards to explain a little more of the nitty-gritty details if you're interested in that, so do let me know about that. So when we talk about taking a deep or full breath, often we can end up with this big. Now that's very exaggerated, but ideally what we want to do is bring more attention and awareness to our rib cage. So we're creating this kind of full expansion through the rib cage and then that sense of contraction again. So I'm going to refer to this as rise and fall or ebb and flow. So you might want to use the imagery of waves on the sea or the ocean. So that sense of everything sort of rising to a crest and then dipping back down again. So you have this movement outwards and inwards. Now that is a very sort of simple way of looking at it, and many other teachers will have different ways of explaining this process. But I think sometimes sticking with very simple imagery can be quite useful. Now, for those of you who may struggle with visualization, we will use our hands for tactile feedback as well, so do not worry about that. Now, to go through this process, you might want to stay seated, and I would perhaps sit up against a wall so you have a bit of feedback there from the wall as well, or to lie down. You might want to have a yoga mat or some form of mat or blanket underneath you. You may even want to use a pillow or a cushion or something to prop underneath your head or maybe underneath your knees in any way that will help you feel a little bit more comfy. I will stay seated for this process to begin with, and then I'll move into a couple of other positions later on. So to begin with, I just want you to focus on your breath. So just notice it as it is. Notice whether there are any sort of sticking points or whether it flows fairly easily. So it's letting that rhythm, that steady pace settle in. And seeing if you can do that without any sense of force or control. So the breath really is moving fairly freely. And just noticing where the breath kind of resides in your body, or the effect of the breath, whether it's more of a sort of chesty and shoulder breath with the shoulders rising up with it, or whether it sits more within the belly region. And then bringing your hands to the rib cage. The fingers are sort of splayed apart, so a bit like a kind of starfish effect there. You might bring the middle fingers together, and with each breath in and out, just inviting a sense of expansion or opening, of rising of the front of the rib cage into the hands. So those middle fingers steadily draw apart and then back together. So it might be a very, very slight movement to begin with. You may increase it over time. There's no rush. Just bringing, inviting, encouraging that sense of the front of the ribcage moving to begin with. And then once you've taken a good few breaths there, we'll move the hands around towards the kind of diagonal part, the corner part, if you like, of the ribcage. So again, keeping those fingers splayed apart so you've got plenty of feedback here from the hands. And exactly the same, steady breaths in and out, observing that rise and fall, maybe encouraging a little movement through the ribcage. And then again, once you've taken a few cycles of breath there, we'll bring the hands right the way around to the sides of the ribcage. So this might seem a little unfamiliar if you've not done this kind of breathing or breath work before. So what I'll do with my thumbs here is actually take them round behind, so it's almost like you're cupping or sort of enveloping the ribcage here. And again, with each cycle of breath, so you might hear me say this a number of times here, again encouraging this sense of expansion or opening, so the ribcage moves into the hands. So you might be able to just about see my ribcage moving. And then of course we'll move on to the back of the body. So this might again seem a little strange, the idea of expanding or opening through the back of the ribcage. It's not something that we're necessarily taught to do at any point in our lives. And it's not necessarily something that we think about, but it is really important so we get this kind of fullness, this full rise and fall through the ribcage. So to help with this, one option is to sit against the wall, or to lie down. So I will demonstrate this from a lying down position, and then in a moment we're all going to meet on the front of the body as well. So I'm just going to set up with my pillow here, underneath my knees. So whether you're against the wall or lying down on the ground, really letting the back of the ribcage settle into the ground or the mat or the wall without losing the nice neutral gentle curve of the lower back. So we don't want to be sort of popped up like this, nor do we want everything sort of flattened out here. So we're in as neutral as a neutral spinal position. The hands may just rest on the ribcage, or you can bring them to the sides of the body here. You might want to close your eyes as well. And again, just observing the breath, and then gradually noticing, bringing your attention to the back of the ribcage, and just noticing the contact there and what happens with each breath in and out. Do you notice the steady building of the movement? the ground there can provide a little resistance. Just taking one more breath there. And if you are lying down, roll over and draw all the way up, just setting any props out to either side. And we'll meet in a tabletop or quadruped stance. We have the shoulders stacked over the wrists and the knees tucked in under the hips. And just moving through a very brief extension and flexion of the spine, connecting up or syncing up with the breath. So this cat-cow movement. And then we'll come down to the front of the body or a prone position. So you might want to walk the knees out behind you or walk the hands out in front, and we'll lower right the way down. So we'll bring the hands, so they're one on top of the other, almost like a pillow. Again, you can always set a prop underneath the forehead here. So we'll continue focusing on the back of the body. So with each breath in and out, again, observing any movement through the back or the posterior section of the rib cage. And it may be here that there's very, very little movement, especially if you've never breathed in this way. So it might even be the idea of some movement to begin with. Taking one more breath there. And then we'll bring the hands back around, lifting up to the knees. Just coming to a seated stance for a moment. So hopefully this video gives you a different idea about breathing and really incorporating the whole of the rib cage. So we're taking some really healthy steps towards a very efficient and effective breathing process. As I said at the beginning of the video, if you would like me to break down the process in terms of science, with the diaphragm, the core, and all of this kind of integrated area, then I'm more than happy to do that. I hope that this is useful to you and that you'll be able to build this in over the coming days and weeks. Please know that it can take time. It did take me years to really find that fuller form of breath, if you like. I'll look forward to sharing more with you. The next video coming up will be freeing up the ribcage through movement, so that may also help you with this process if you'd like to check that out when you're ready. Look forward to sharing with you again soon. Bye for now.